our spirit on TV-8.
It's 12 o'clock. And now from TV-8, where news is #1, Molly Cooley, John McLaughlin, and Mary Brubaker. This is TV-8 News, live at noon.
Good afternoon, everyone. Thanks for joining us. There are reports today from the Middle East that Iraqi troops have forced their way into foreign diplomatic buildings in occupied Kuwait and have taken some citizens away. French and West German TV reports that the U.S. Embassy was entered, but State Department officials say it has no information on that so far. The French Foreign Ministry is charging that Iraqi soldiers forced their way into the French ambassador's home in Kuwait and took 4 French citizens. The Canadian embassy says its representative in Kuwait was briefly detained. France is expressing outrage over the incident. The United Nations Security Council last night passed a resolution allowing shipments of food and medicine to Iraq aimed at easing human suffering. In passing the U.S.-backed measure, the Council rejected an effort by Cuba that would have authorized more widespread shipments of food to the region. The limited supplies must be delivered by humanitarian organizations, but Iraq is balking at that stipulation.
Well, President Bush will be asking Congress for even more money to fund the Operation Desert Shield. Congressional and administrative sources say Mr. Bush will request $1.8 billion to fund the military buildup through the end of this month. The sources say the request will be included in a proposal to forgive billions in Egyptian military debt to the U.S. The U.S. forces in the Persian Gulf haven't engaged the enemy yet, but soldiers are getting medals for their outstanding performance. Scott Pelley reports from Saudi Arabia.
Staff Sergeant Jones displayed superior technical expertise.
No shots have been fired, but General Colin Powell is already handing out decorations in a barren land. Medals of merit for outstanding work in delivering the shield to the desert. But as these men were lauded, there are growing signs portions of the deployment are less than meritorious. The aging military airlift command fleet is sagging beneath the weight of its biggest mission ever. Cargo ships that are supposed to be ready to carry U.S. troops and equipment are breaking down, failing in a way one source called scandalous.
There have been certain parts of the deployment that have been a little slower than I would have liked or that we had expected.
As a result, some cargoes are arriving out of order. Troops and equipment are mismatched. Army artillery and air units that should be complete are not. Enough hardware has landed to secure the defense of Saudi Arabia, but heavy land attack forces are still en route. And top commanders won't say when they will be ready.
We're running an operation that has a level of operational security around it, and I am not going to openly describe what our future plans are and at what point I'm going to be satisfied.
Perhaps no other country in the world could have moved so much in so little time. But as the marathon in the desert enters its 6th week, there are clear signs the system is growing tired. Scott Pelley, CBS News, Saudi Arabia.
The American troops have plenty of people back home thinking of them, including students at Des Moines St. Teresa Catholic School. More than 100 3rd, 4th, and 5th graders spent this morning writing cards to the service people. Many decorated their cards with crayon pictures. Some of the messages were cheery and included jokes to make the troops laugh. Others had a more serious tone.
Why did the boy take ketchup to bed? To catch up on his sleep. I will be praying for you and your friends. It's real hot down in Des Moines, Iowa, too. I'm behind you all the way.
They really are worried about it. And to go through and read some of their letters, it brings tears to my eyes just to see how they are worried and how involved some of them have gotten.
Teachers say they had the idea for a letter writing campaign when they realized just how interested the children were in the Persian Gulf crisis, and the letters will be mailed out tonight. Many students included their home addresses, hoping to hear back from their new friends in the Middle East.
Truck drivers who are upset with higher fuel prices from the Persian Gulf crisis have taken their protests on the road. About 30 trucks rolled into a truck stop on Interstate 80 near Des Moines late last night. Drivers started with only 3 trucks in Chicago, but they expect to reach more than 100 trucks in a convoy by the time they get to the West Coast. Drivers say they're fed up with diesel prices rising 57 cents in some places, and they warn that higher costs of travel will be passed on to the consumer.
We want the public to understand that there's something going on here. We just wanted to support the people of this country. We want to let them know that the surcharge is going to be reflected into their prices, and that to stick behind the truckers, because we're here for them, and I hope that they're here for us.
Drivers are also calling for more uniform regulations among state and federal transportation laws. The drivers also protesting a proposed ban on radar detectors in commercial vehicles. The drivers say it singles out truckers.
Japan is pledging another $3 billion to the Persian Gulf crisis. The move comes after U.S. criticism of Japan for not doing their fair share. A Japanese spokesman says part of the additional aid comes with a promise that President Bush will tell the American people that the Japanese are helping with the burden of forcing Iraq out of Kuwait.
15,000 additional troops from Syria may bolster the multinational force in the Persian Gulf. Syrian President Hafez Assad mentioned the possibility during a meeting today with U.S. Secretary of State James Baker. Bill Plant reports from Damascus.
This was the first high-level contact between the U.S. and Syria in more than 2 years. There are substantial disagreements over terrorism and other matters overcome by common opposition to Iraq's invasion of Kuwait. Syria has already sent several thousand troops to the Gulf. Diplomatic sources say that as many as 15,000 Syrian troops, including heavy armor, will be transported into the Gulf by the Soviets, another major shift in Middle East politics. The Secretary of State urged Syrian President Assad to use his influence with Iran to keep up their support of the sanctions against Iraq. Baker also raised the question of Syrian support for terrorism, including the group believed to have masterminded the bombing of Pan Am Flight 103. The U.S. is looking for Secretary Baker's high-profile visit to Syria to encourage what it hopes will be a significant shift in Arab politics, Syria's alignment with the so-called moderates, Egypt and Saudi Arabia, rather than the hardliners. The incentive, in addition to hatred of Saddam Hussein, billions of dollars from the Gulf states for Syria's economy. Bill Plant, CBS News, Damascus.
Still to come today, the nomination hearing for the next Supreme Court justice continues in Washington.
And at least one Iowa university says its enrollment is the highest it's been in years. Stay with us. It's day 2 for David Souter before the Senate Judiciary Committee. So far, Souter has avoided answering any questions about how he'd rule on the abortion rights question. But in his testimony this morning, Souter agreed that justices should be impartial fact-finders and not try to impose their own will through court rulings.
We have not been placed upon courts, in effect, to impose our will. We have been placed upon courts to impose the will that lies behind the meaning of those who framed and by their adoption intended to impose the law and the constitutional law of this country upon us all.
The confirmation hearing for Souter's nomination to the Supreme Court will continue this afternoon.
A Reynolds man whose body was found in a cornfield near Reynolds this past week died from dehydration due to exposure. The Polk County Medical Examiner's Office completed an autopsy on the body of 81-year-old Gerald McWilliams, who was discovered on Wednesday. He had suffered from Alzheimer's disease and disappeared from his home on Sunday in his pickup truck. His truck was found later, and a massive search was conducted in the area. Officials say it appeared he had died sometime Tuesday evening. A college in Iowa that generated quite a bit of controversy earlier this year is enjoying its highest enrollment since 1977. Officials at Takeo Westmar University in Le Mars says the school has seen an overall increase of 16% from a year ago. 658 students are enrolled as compared to 566 in 1989. The university generated controversy when it announced that it would be merging with Takeo University of Japan. And earlier this year, United Methodist Church withdrew its affiliation over a management structure dispute. Officials say the most notable gains have been in the number of part-time and transfer students.
Another college is quite pleased with its fall enrollment. Des Moines Area Community College officials say the school has set a new record high. More than 10,500 students are enrolled in credit classes at the 4 DMACC campuses. Officials say enrollment this fall increased just over 2%, with increases noted at 3 of 4 DMACC campuses in Ankeny, Boone, and Carroll. The urban campus in Des Moines dropped 3.5%. Now, some Des Moines residents got a sneak peek at the city from atop the highest building last night. Rotarians were given the first tour of the new Embassy Club, located at the top of the 41-story 801 Grand building. The club officially will open to its 1,650 members on September 24. It will feature plush surroundings spread across the 40th and 41st floors, not to mention the spectacular view of the metro area. It features one large dining room and several banquet rooms, a bar, and 2 kitchens.
Sit there and just watch that cool weather roll in.
Come on
right?
through.
Okay.
That's right.
It's here.
Yes, 67 right now.
Congratulations.
Yes,
okay.
about 25 degrees cooler than yesterday. And it looks like we're going to see cool weather on and off throughout the weekend. We'll have a forecast after this.
For up-to-the-minute weather information, day or night, call the TV-8 Weather Beacon forecast at 262-7173.
Well, before we get to the weather today, it's time for a quiz. What is this? Well, we've asked our panel of judges, and the answer is acorns. So Michael Erickson gets the vote for shooting that picture there. Let's move on now to temperatures. 67 right now. Mostly sunny conditions for the time being. We've had some fairly dense clouds moving rapidly over the area. North winds now 18 to 22 miles an hour. 67% relative humidity, and the barometer now rising at 3003. Temperatures across the state, unbelievable compared to what we've seen for about the last 12, 13 days or so. 61 in Fort Dodge right now, 59 in Spencer, 64 in Sioux City. Omaha, Council Bluffs with 66. Across much of southern Iowa, temperatures now in the upper 60s. But up to the north, we're talking low 60s, and things just not recovering very fast. As the front blew across the state overnight, temperatures lowered pretty dramatically. 58 in Fort Dodge overnight, 55 up in Spencer. We made it down to 60 at 7 o'clock this morning in Des Moines. Ottumwa at 63 degrees as well. Burlington with 66. This is the way things look this morning. A bit of an upper air disturbance right over Iowa. Most of the moisture with the front was well off to the north. This is the area where strong thunderstorms are developing today. Probably see an outbreak of severe weather across the Ohio Valley as the front continues to move rapidly to the east. And behind it, an influx of cold air. We will see this cold air modified somewhat by tomorrow, with temperatures getting into the 70s to around 80. But another shot of cold air is ready to come in Saturday night, and that will mean cooler temperatures for Sunday. So kind of an up and down forecast this weekend. Here's the way things are shaping up right now with the front in this area. 80s out ahead of it, behind it 50s and 60s. However, it is warm again in the desert southwest with temperatures already in the 80s there, and across the southeast we're seeing some 80s as well. Pollen count is quite high today. The northwest winds are stirring up pollen. 204 the ragweed, 263 total pollen. That translates into a lot of suffering for those of you that have ragweed allergies. Lake wind advisories will be in effect for much of the eastern two-thirds of the state today because of the strong winds, 15 to 30 miles an hour out of the northwest. Temperatures on the cool side, 68 to 75 will be the temperature range across the state today. And with some scattered clouds drifting over the area, there is a possibility of a few sprinkles, but no major precipitation is expected today. Now later on tonight, the clouds will be moving off to the east with clear skies and winds diminishing. Expect some quite chilly conditions, 45 to 47 across the northern counties tonight, and in the south, 48 to 50. But then tomorrow is looking excellent. 77 to 82 will be the temperature range across the state. Wind should not be much of a factor tomorrow, and plenty of sunshine is expected. Now let's take a look at the forecast for Des Moines and central Iowa. Considerable cloudiness today. A few sprinkles are possible with a high temperature only in the low 70s. Winds today northwest 15 to 30, so a lake wind advisory will be in effect until 6 o'clock this evening. Later on tonight, clearing and cold, a low near 50 degrees. And then for tomorrow, plenty of sunshine. The high temperature will be near 80 degrees. The extended forecast, though, calling for temperatures to dip back into the 70s. But then by Monday and Tuesday, we'll be talking about the 80s.
Quite a change.
Indeed.
Wonderful. About time. Well, shockwaves from the Persian Gulf crisis are driving up wholesale prices. The Labor Department says prices at the producer level shot up 1.3% in August. That's the biggest surge in 7 months. It blames almost the entire increase on higher oil prices caused by Iraq's invasion of Kuwait. And at the New York Stock Exchange today, the market is lower in light trading. Volume in the first 2.5 hours, 63 million shares. The Dow is down 17 points today at 25.65. Average share of common stock is down 22 cents. Midwest cattle prices this noon untested. Butchers mostly 50 higher, sows steady to $2 lower. In Chicago, September corn is mixed at $2.33, September beans mixed $6.22, and September wheat is mixed today at $2.60.
And hopefully Mary is out of the cold and the wind. Let's find out just where she's at.
We're up at DMAC today. I've been visiting with Boris Jogin, who is a visitor from the Soviet Union. He's a literary scholar. He's written books, including one on American writer H.L. Mencken. And Glasnost is alive and well here today, and we'll tell you all about it right after this. visiting with Boris Zhogin. We were just looking at the commercial a moment ago about the best of burlesque, and I was trying to explain to a visitor from the Soviet Union what burlesque was all about. Now, you've got to learn all these Americanisms before you go back and try to tell the people in the Soviet Union what we are really like. Have you decided what we are really like, Boris?
Oh, well.
Or can you say?
Well, how many words?
In
how many words? Yeah, I do want it to explain it.
Give me some quick reactions, though, about Americans that may have surprised you. This is your first visit here, so what do you think of us?
Well, I believe that you're very open and, as I've already told, very efficient. Then, well, trying to help, really. Oh, what else? Then...
A little crazy around the edges sometimes?
No, I wouldn't go that far, no. No, and, well, you are very quick, or you are sort of trying to change all the time. You're very open to change. You see, you're not sticking to the old maybe things, especially what concerns professional side of your life. Yeah. Well, but that's my, I don't know, maybe first 5 minutes impressions. You see.
That's very good, because that's a tough question, and it's one that always, it puts you on guard in a sense. I'm interested in the fact that you have written a scholarly work on H.L. Mencken, who is one of our prominent American writers, of course, and critics and journalists and poets here in America. Oh, what got you interested in Mencken, by the way?
Well, so a role he played in promoting this new type of literature, then the impact he had on the progress literature was taken at that time, then maybe a role he played in remaking or the concept of culture and the place the intelligentsia or culture should play in the society, and the way he was putting his thoughts, just the manner he was making it, packaging, as we might call it.
He took a lot of risks. He destroyed a lot of sacred cows. He was willing to, really tell it like it was. He was very critical of our society in many ways. Now, can Russian writers be that way about society in the Soviet Union?
I think so. And right now, I believe that writers are one of the main driving forces. So just those who keep sort of stabbing people and they force them moving ahead, really. They are a great decisive factor in all the changes that are taking place nowadays.
And of course, those changes have been dramatic between our two nations. How do you feel about perestroika, about glasnost, about this lessening of hostilities between our nations?
Well, I'm very glad that those things are taking place, and I'm absolutely sure that that's the right way to go, you see. So we're in the right direction, actually.
Aren't we lucky that we live in a time when this has happened, you and I?
Yeah. And maybe the feeling of proudness that you do live at that time, you see, and, well, that you still have some time to go to see the results of all this.
Because it's going to be very exciting. The next century is going to bring so many changes. When you think of how fast the changes have happened in the last few years, think what could happen in the next decade. Are you a prognosticator? Let's hope they're happy things.
I don't think anybody would sort of risk taking chances and predicting what might happen, you see. But I do believe that all the changes that are there to come, they are for the good, you see. And yeah, absolutely.
And Boris and I both agreed a few moments ago that exchanges like this are the best ways for us to eliminate the stereotypical thinking we've had about our two nations and about the peoples of the two nations. And we welcome you. That's a good old-fashioned American engine roaring by there. we welcome you to Des Moines. We wish you well. You're here to study community colleges and how they work, and we hope you take back good information, and we'll come and visit again.
Thank you very much.
Do svidanya.
Absolutely sure. Do svidanya. Do svidanya. And see you again.
Thank
Maybe
you, Boris.
One time, okay?
Thank you. We'll be back with more on the TV8 News Live at noon right after this.
The lines are long in Florida as residents try to snatch up a ticket for a $100 million lottery jackpot. Officials say tickets are selling at 5 times the normal pace. Bruce Hall reports on the frenzy preceding this weekend's drawing.
There's a $100 million feeding frenzy in Florida. The state has caught lottery fever. Yes, that's a $100 million prize. And people are buying tickets as fast as they can. Machines spitting out 300 a second. Buyers waiting in long lines for their chance in the Saturday night drawing.
Hopefully win it, give it to the kids. They took my first million or two, so I guess I'll get the rest of it.
The prize, second largest in U.S. history, has residents clamoring for tickets, some spending thousands. Amy Sharabi has bought over 5,000 tickets.
I'm going to get some money from it, for sure. I feel like I'm going to get it this time.
Nathaniel Marks forked over $7,000.
Because if you don't invest money, you can't win money. So you must invest money to win money.
4,400 so far.
Ticket sales are exceeding even the wildest expectations of the lottery operators.
Sales right now are 5 times higher than our highest week ever.
With 14 million possible combinations, the odds are not good for the holder of any single ticket. In fact, you stand a better chance of being struck by lightning than winning the lottery. But somehow, for these folks, it just doesn't seem to matter. Bruce Hall, CBS News, Atlanta.
So call all your friends and relatives, right?
7,000 tickets?
Wow. Struck by lightning, huh? Well, Mary, can you top that? What's coming up on Monday?
But Boris and I was just telling him about lotteries and things like that. He's learning a lot about America. On Monday, if he watches, he will see Lenny Clark. Lenny Clark is a stand-up comic who is playing the lead in a new CBS series called Lenny, and he's a funny guy.
John.
And a very comfortable afternoon today. Temperatures will be in the low 70s. We could see a few clouds, maybe some sprinkles. Northwest winds today quite strong, 15 to 30 miles an hour. Later on tonight, skies will be clearing, a low temperature near 50 degrees, and then for tomorrow, expect a comfortable high temperature, 80 degrees with plenty of sunshine.
Long time since we've seen those. Coming up tonight at 6, we'll have more for you on the letter-writing effort to U.S. servicemen and women based in the Middle East. We'll also tell you about the easiest way to get to Iowa City for this weekend's Hawkeye game. Connie McBurney pays another visit to Project Main Street Community of Lake City. That'll do it for this week.
Thanks for joining us. Bye-bye.